A little eyeball icon has appeared.
Oh, yeah, baby. That's the sound. You know what that means. Well, at least I know what that means. It's time for IMNSHOW with yours truly, DP Knudten, and a very special guest, as always. And again, sometimes on IMNSHOW, I give you my not-so-humble opinion about whatever's going on in marketing and branding and stuff like that. But I also do something on the regular, which is have a guest that I'm recording for my podcast, the Nonfiction Brand podcast. And I'm doing that tonight with someone that I discovered through the Tickety Talk. And she's doing something that I preach on the regular about getting yourself out there and sharing who you are, what you do, and how you do it, and using your voice, and in her case, also her face, to really hammer home that just because you aren't working on drama TV, that doesn't mean you can't have a real significant presence out there in the universe. And that's where it's time to introduce that special guest. And her name is Annelise Baer. And there she is. If you follow TikTok at all and you have any interest in the hard sciences, maybe a little bit of interest in foreign cultures, even a little bit of dabbling into Egyptology and you name it, you're probably going to have seen her face because Annelise, the archaeologist, is all over TikTok all the time, at least if you've got a feed like mine. Welcome to the Nonfiction Brand podcast, Annelise. Before I let you talk, I just want to give people a little bit of detail about who she is based on what her website is telling me. Annelise is an archaeologist and producer born and raised in Los Angeles. She holds a BA in Classical Civilizations with a minor in archaeology from Loyola Marymount University and an MA in archaeology for screen media from the University of Bristol. She combines her unique skills and experience from over a decade in both the entertainment industry and the archaeological academic world to help create interesting, engaging, and exciting factual programming that brings stories from the past to a 21st century audience. Well, that's true about what you do there, but it's also true about what you do on TikTok, because I think, let's see, I think one of the first times I saw you on my feed, you were talking about pre-pottery civilizations in Turkey and waxing on about the various tepes, if you know what I mean. The Globeki Tepe and I think the Karahan Tepe, if I may be mispronouncing that. But for people who are listening, you might be going, huh? What are you talking about, DP? And I'll say, I'm talking about fascinating archaeological discoveries that have been curated by Annelise Baer and delivered by Annelise Baer to me via the free, always on, universally available channel of TikTok. That's pretty damn cool. And I knew I had to have her on the podcast. And now it's time for me to shut up and let her talk. Annelise, I got to tee up this question for you. Why is a archaeologically oriented media producer on TikTok sharing everything you know or have found or seen or new discoveries or whatever? Why are you on TikTok, which is supposed to be about 20-year-olds in crop tops dancing mimetic dances?
That is a fantastic question. And every day I ask myself, why? Why am I here? Because I mean, on paper, I am absolutely not the target demographic for TikTok. I am not a teen doing fun dances with their friends, nor am I a sort of perpetual content creator. I'm not a YouTuber by any means. I'm not out here just making content for the sake of making content. It is absolutely not my livelihood. I have a full-time job. I work in TV production. That's the thing that actually pays the bills. And that's because my overall sort of career journey has taken a lot of twists and turns. It's a very interesting journey that I've had, and it's a very non-traditional one. And somehow I've found myself in this lovely little liminal zone between the world of archaeology, so professors and universities and academic papers and stuff like that, and the world of entertainment. and I am right smack in the middle. And every now and then I get to work on a television show that is focusing on history and archaeology and stuff like that. And then I get to use all of my knowledge and my degrees, and usually call a couple of friends too, and put everything together in and make lovely programs that sometimes people watch. And then as for the TikTok of it all, this is 100% a product of trying to figure out what to do with myself and my time and just my life in general during COVID lockdowns, because I was stuck at home and I had no idea what was going to happen. I had no idea what the future of the entertainment industry or even television production was going to be like, because, for all of us, almost overnight or over the course of a week, everything changed. And I was not able to do the work that I had always done in the way that I had always done it. And after slowly losing my mind for a couple of days as things kept going on, and a couple of weeks, I started making little videos in my apartment and putting them on Instagram, mostly just to entertain my friends and relatives who were on Instagram, just talking about historical things. I called it the no budget archaeology show because I had no budget and I was literally just using things that were within reach in my home, mostly just books I already own and things I just know off the top of my head. And that's how it started. And then summer 2021, I begrudgingly acknowledged that TikTok was the number one source of information for young people and people in general, but primarily young people. And the unfortunate reality with that was the information being put out and given to them, specifically in my realm of expertise, which is archaeology and ancient history, was garbage. And all of these accounts and these people were just pumping out pseudo information. Pseudo archaeology, as we call it, is basically ancient aliens and similar programming that just is absolute nonsense and 100% wrong in every way, shape, and form. But people believe it because it's on television, which means it must have some sort of credentials to it. And then same thing with the internet, but even worse. Anyone can speak authoritatively on any topic and people will just believe them. And
Oh, yeah.
so as
I,
as sort of a response to that, because again, like, back then, a lot of kids were still at home and, doing, Zoom school and stuff like that. um, I I wanted there to be something for them and something for people who were at home and wanting to know more about these topics, because people are endlessly fascinated by ancient history and ancient cultures and mythology and stuff like that. And, I was one of those kids and I know I'm not alone. And so I waited. I waited to see if someone might step up and do that, because there are a lot of famous faces when it comes to archaeologists, people who are on TV pretty often as experts, or hosts and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is they're busy. They are incredibly busy because all of those people are also full-time professors. And so all of our lives were chaos at the point. And so finally enough time had passed and I just thought, screw it, I'll do it myself. And here we are.
well, you mentioned, I think the summer of 2021. I always want to go back to see if I can find someone's very first TikTok. The earliest one I could find on your feed, I think, was June, perhaps,
Mm-hmm.
of 2021. Is that when you actually started? So you worked out the kinks on Instagram and then ported. You're doing both, porting stuff to Instagram and TikTok, which is a very sound strategy, if you ask me. But is that about when you started hitting TikTok hard?
That sounds about right. And by hitting it hard, I begrudgingly made an account and uploaded, I think, 2 or 3 videos that I had already made for Instagram because they already had captions on them and everything. And just hit post, and yeah, here we are.
Can I ask you just a little behind the curtain stuff and say,
Mhm.
what's engagement like for you on Instagram versus TikTok?
Engagement on Instagram is my personal space. That's what I've had the longest and has been pretty strictly just friends and family members. So if you go to my Instagram account, which is just my name, same as it is on Twitter, it's mostly just photos you would see on Instagram. It's not the full, to quote Bo Burnham, white woman's Instagram. There is some latte art on there because sometimes it's really nice. But it's me, it's my friends, it's, animals, it's pretty flowers that I see. And so I really don't use it for building engagement. So the engagement on Instagram is much lower because the people seeing it are to see the things that I'm making on TikTok. Because I don't need my aunts and uncles making TikTok accounts.
No, I totally get that, and it makes great sense. One of the things that longtime listeners of the Nonfiction Brand podcast will remember me saying ad nauseum is that everyone's got a style, and every social media channel or venue is a stage, but not all styles match every stage. So, strategically, you're saying, I'm a little more personal on Instagram. I'm a little more presentational on TikTok. And
yeah, that's exactly it. You adapt for the platform and you adapt for the medium.
Yeah, exactly. And you also react to how that channel is. Who are they delivering to you? And you mentioned the fact that there's a lot of disinformation out there. And sometimes marquee production channels put their name on something that is embarrassing. Like I can't remember the British guy who is convinced there was a pre-Ice Age mega civilization that got
would be Graham Hancock.
Yeah, I mean, it's like just show one artifact, just one.
Just one.
That could hint.
Show your proof.
But no, it could. Well, there's this void under this rocky outcrop in India.
Some experts say.
Yeah, some say. Yeah, well, some drunks on the corner say. That doesn't mean it's going to be true, but it's interesting because when I saw you on TikTok, you're not the only archaeology-minded person that is in my feed, but you're probably the most, I guess, most aligned with how I choose to engage with social media. Meaning, there are some guys who are there just to bat down the garbage.
And they are truly doing the Lord's work. I commend them for that.
Yeah, but at the same time, that doesn't seem to me like a style that would feel comfortable to you.
No, and that has a lot to do with the fact that specific ground, that, just straight debunking ground, is so well trod by all of those guys. Like, they've got it covered. They're good. And I don't need to be voice number 4,921 saying exactly the same thing. Like, they've got it handled. And at the end of the day, I don't need to be getting in fights with people on the internet. That's not my idea of a good time. For some people it is. And you know what? That's great. Do your thing. But for me, I don't come to the internet or social media to pick fights with people. I'm not about to get in fights in the comments. I'm not about to go back and forth endlessly doing a video and then a response and then a rebuttal. It's like, to me, that is a waste of time. And it's specifically a waste of my time, which is very precious. And again, there are plenty of guys specifically out there handling that. They've got it covered. And you know what? If the reply guys want to get into it in their comment section with them and they've got the time, go for it. That's fantastic. I'm going to be over here in my little corner focusing on what I think is even more interesting than any of those, same 5 to 10 topics that are always recycled. It's always the same topics, and talk about something that's infinitely more interesting and infinitely more exciting and worth paying attention to.
Well, and I truly appreciate that because I like a good takedown when someone like Archaeo Wolf brings out the Thor's hammer to crush someone's skull.
Oh yeah.
He's really good at it. Plus he's got that kind of almost like Norse
Yeah,
berserker
he's
about
very
him.
tough. And yeah, when he pulls out the state like statutes and stuff, it's like, yes, it's always a good time. Or Mini Minuteman. He does
Yep.
a fantastic job. And it honestly, debunking it's a young man's game. So I'm gonna leave it to the young dudes who have the time and the energy to get in fights on the internet. Great. Do your thing.
Well,
More
and
power
also
to
I
you.
think listeners can probably hear just even from your voice and your presence that I hope this isn't insulting. It's not meant to be insulting. You've got a certain Miss Frizzle energy about you. You take everybody on the magic school bus when it comes to archaeology and anthropology and civilizations and history and just story and lore, and you bring it to life because half the time I'll look at your feed and in the background you'll have a screenshot from a website or like the Guardian might cover some new
I
discovery.
love the green screen feature. I love it.
Well, yeah, and it works great because guess what? I
I
read
can just
that
change
article at the
sources.
Guardian and I went, "Oh, that sounds kind of cool." Then I'll see your take on it where you bring the Guardian in, you're saying, "Hey, this is being presented by a legit organization, but here's
Legitimate
how
news
you can."
sources.
Yeah, well, cite your sources, but also here's the context around that story that can add layers of richness to it that you may not know or I might need to remind you of. And I'm like, oh, I love that because my my regular feeds, no matter where I am, I'm interested in hard science for someone who couldn't do the math. Literally, if I could do the math, I'd be a scientist. I can't do the math.
If I could
I'm
do
not
the
a
math, I'd be an
scientist.
astronaut. So here we
Well,
are.
exactly. So consequently, you being my kind of docent or tour guide into these realms is really fun, especially when you are the curator of this is worth your attention. That is very, very valuable in our time starved, too many channels, too much noise. The fact that you can amplify signal instead of just amplifying noise is truly, really valuable to me. And consequently, I'm all over your content and learning so much from you. But I want to go back to say one thing about our discussion about the archaeology oriented people who are taking down people who are just spouting crap.
Hmm.
And you kind of implied that, well, that's not really my style. I don't like it. It's not why I go to the internet or why I choose to engage on social media. Well, guess what? A lot of us feel the same way. And while we love a good takedown, if it was nothing but takedown TV, I don't want to watch that. It's just a mosh pit.
It gets very boring after a while, and to me it's very one note. um it's the only note. And then of course the other issue that really sort of drives the way I approach things for me is that I'm a woman existing on the internet, and I also have the fortune and or dual fortune and misfortune of being a woman who knows things on the internet, and I am daring to exist, which for a lot of people is a problem. And that often creates a very unpleasant environment to be in. And I don't want to be around that because I don't need to. And that's something it's an unfortunate byproduct of this whole thing. And it's not just the internet. I mean, it's any of my friends who have been on television programs or who have written books, they get it too. They get it again simply for being a woman who knows something existing in the world. That's enough to set some people off. And then when it comes to this specific community, and specifically the type of people who are very strong supporters of these pseudoscience and pseudo archaeology topics, because there are some like ardent defenders. This is the hill that they have chosen to die on, and they are going to die on that hill. They will not hesitate to come into your space and start yelling at you. And again, just for saying what is the actual truth about the matter. And it's all the reply guys. There's a lot of whataboutism. There's a lot of sea lions, which is another fun internet thing to encounter, but it's all just another day of existing on the internet and existing on social media.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because you produce this content that I would call generally up with people, sunny, exciting, fun. Take a look at this, super cool. And
Yeah,
then,
because it is
and
cool.
well, it is absolutely cool. But then, and I don't go into comments much at all
Mhm.
because it's just a cesspool.
I know.
But
Don't do it.
I
Rule number one,
see,
don't read the comments.
oh yeah, but I mean, all you have to do is if you are a person with an X and a Y chromosome is go to any woman who knows anything about anything and
Mhm.
watch your content,
And look at
agree
the
with
comments.
what you agree with, but then read the comments. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
if you said 1 + 1 = 2, you would have someone coming at you who is ill-informed and rude and mansplaining up, down, right, and left,
Mhm.
and with just it reeks of misogyny. So,
And it's misogyny and boredom and lack of communication skills. And, sometimes, I mean, and that's the other thing that I think people don't realize about TikTok, which is that I have to moderate everything myself. I don't have a team. I don't have, people. I don't have a social media manager. Like, it's me. It's all me. I'm doing everything. And so I have to moderate my own content. And so because of that, I will do a cursory glance at all of the comments that come in over the course of a day just to make sure that you know everybody's behaving, everybody's passing the vibe check, as they say. And I will delete anything, delete and block liberally, as the situation calls for, because at the end of the day, I'm trying to create a little space on TikTok for people to come and find the fun information that they're looking for, or maybe find new information that they didn't even know they were looking for about ancient history and archaeology and ancient cultures, and have a good time. And I don't want trolls essentially coming in and ruining someone else's good time, because then that defeats the purpose of this whole thing.
well, exactly. And I, I just want to applaud you for doing what you're doing the way you're doing it, because for all the people who watch your stuff and never say anything, that's me. I literally I've followed you for at least a year, and not in a creepy way, but in a, oh my God, I had no idea that, oh, that's cool, that new discovery in
And
the
that's
Valley
great.
of the
You don't need
Queens,
to
or
comment on everything. Like, no one's forcing you to comment. It's okay to just like look at something and enjoy it and be like, that was nice.
well, and I
Anyway,
guess
moving
that's
on.
for the people in this audience who are listening from the point of view of desiring to build up their personal brand. One of the real truisms of doing that is you have to understand you are not going to get plaudits and kudos overnight. You
No.
may not after 100, after 200, after 300
Mhm.
of these things. And you probably will run into more negatives than you will positives, because the people who like to go negative like to go negative. I
Oh
don't know.
yeah, and that's the easiest thing to do, is to go for a negative as opposed to a positive.
Well,
And
yeah. It, I always like to say it's really easy to be a sniper.
mhm.
You're up there with a scoped rifle, hiding
Yep.
on a hilltop a mile away, and you just ping away at someone who's out there in the Teddy Roosevelt, the person in the arena who's actually getting out there and doing the stuff and pinging off them. So I guess the thing I'd like to underline for anybody who's interested in building their personal brand is you got to have a little bit of a thick skin, and
Yeah.
not all comments are equal.
Mm-mm. No, and it's a roller coaster of emotions every single day. And yeah, the for all the good comments I get that are really, encouraging and, make you feel really good about what you're doing, there's going to be the one, and of course the one that you remember is, something really hurtful or hateful, and, from a random troll with no user profile picture, or sometimes they have one but they haven't uploaded any videos. They're just there to lurk and be a troll. And those are the ones that stick with you. And it really sucks, because there are infinitely more people who are out there having a lovely time with whatever you're making and, genuinely enjoying it and getting something from it. And they took the time to leave a nice comment to let you know how much they enjoyed it. So, like I said, every day is a roller coaster of emotions, and some days are better than others. And honestly, the hardest days for me are the ones when something actually goes viral. To me, it is terrifying. It is a terrifying experience. I do not recommend it for anybody, even though I know that's the goal for all of these things. Going viral is terrifying.
Well, I want to go more into that in next week's episode, because listeners, Annelise, what a great person to meet and follow on TikTok, Instagram, etc. Although I would probably say TikTok, because if you're her friend or family, Instagram, definitely hook up with her. But otherwise, the rest of us, you can get a ton of Annelise on TikTok, especially if you like content revolving around archaeology, anthropology, ancient languages, cultures, and civilizations. There's a little bit of something. I mean, it's a Whitman sampler of great stuff for anybody who's got an interest. Well, put it this way. Anyone who grew up with National Geographic in the family magazine rack, you're going to love her content because it covers everything Nat Geo would. But she brings also her expertise as I'm going to say a media educator to it.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I just have the dual specialties of being an actual archaeologist, because that's what my degrees and training are in, and someone who works in the TV industry making television for people to watch.
Well, and we're going to talk about in next week's episode the reason why she's going so big on TikTok and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of strategy going on in there that may not meet the eye, and I personally would love to know more. So, first of all, homework. 1, if you're watching the live stream, check out Annelise on TikTok. Her @handle is @Annelise the Archaeologist. You might be best just doing a search for Annelise Baer, Baer. Annelise spelled Annelise. And you can also check her out at AnneliseBaer.com, where you can get links to all her socials and stuff like that. One of the things I want to talk about next week is your resume, because it fascinates me. Anybody who likes Pawn Stars or Time Team or, Adam Eats the 80s. I mean, that kills me. The Toys That Built America. A lot of these shows, I mean, if you've watched anything on, just about any channel, History, Discovery, etc., she's had her fingers on it in one form or another. Her fingerprints are on it, put it that way. So that's going to be a fascinating conversation. I hope you'll tune in next week for that. Until then, I want to remind everybody that this podcast is brought to you by my book, Nonfiction Brand. Discover, craft, and communicate the completely true, completely you brand you already are. You can get it over at the House of Jeff Bezos, Amazon.com, simply by searching Nonfiction Brand and Knudten, which is spelled K-N-U, D as in David, T as in Tom, E as in Edward, N as in nothing. And next week, Annelise will be back and we'll dive into more of those subjects. But for now, I'm your host, DP Knudten, and she is
Annelise Baer.
And we'll be talking at you again next week. Bye-bye. Pause. So, Annelise, last week, we started to broach the conversation about how you took two distinct disciplines, archaeology and media or media production, is storytelling, teaching via mass media, and you've married them together, not only professionally, meaning full-time job, but also what I would call nonfiction brand building in terms of your TikTok content as well. Why did you do two things like that and marry them together like peanut butter and chocolate?
Well, I don't know if there is an answer for why. It just kind of ended up happening that way. I mean, I've always liked television. I've liked watching. I love a good documentary. I, grew up on those big sort of old school blue chip National Geographic and Discovery Channel documentaries. You know, it was the 90s. It was a great time to be a documentary. So that's what I grew up on. And then if you sprinkle in a dash of Anthony Bourdain when he rocked up in the early 2000s, that, you know, those are the TV shows that I like to watch. And so I liked that. And also, you know, on the track to get my degrees and be an archaeologist. And I just thought, hey, you know, at some point, it would be cool to see more archaeology stuff on TV because that's what I like seeing. And surely someone else is going to like it too. I had no idea that it would lead to this specific place. I had no idea that it would take the path that it did, but here we are. And yeah, I mean, it's been a wild ride. And I wish I could say that there's a blueprint for other people to follow in my footsteps and do the same thing too, but there isn't. And for the longest time, it was kind of just me in this weird little space. But now there are a couple more hybrid or sort of, you know, media focused archaeology degree programs that I've been hearing about through the grapevine. So there's something coming, and there's about to be a whole new generation of archaeologists and graduates who are thinking about archaeology in the context of either media or social media or different kinds of, you know, media presentations. And it's going to be really exciting. Like the next couple of years are going to be really, really exciting.
Well, in the next couple of years, they're going to launch careers for people that are interested in being not only deeply skilled in their various fields of endeavor, but also willing to put their public face out there and grab it. Now, for those of us old enough, we'll remember a certain guy who popularized billions and billions of galaxies way back in the day, Carl Sagan. Like if you, not so much now, but back in the 70s, 80s, even into the 90s, if you said, name one astronomer, people would say
Carl Sagan.
Carl Sagan. Unfortunately, he passed away. But then came this new guy, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is so smart and so branded now that people refer to him as NDT by his three initials. And he is the public face of astronomy, and it's not by mistake. There is a fantastic YouTube video of Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about how he learned the value of the soundbite. You know, and without, you can watch it, just look up Neil deGrasse Tyson's value of soundbite or something like that, and you'll be able to find it. But the bottom line was, as the newly minted director of the Hayden Planetarium in New York City, some astronomical thing would be going on. Like, I don't know, maybe there's a asteroid coming toward Earth, and so every producer on TV has to have an astronomer on to say, it's not going to hit Earth, don't worry. So he would get the call. They would do what producers like you do, which is set up the camera and talk to him for 20 minutes and grab that 2.5 second soundbite where he said, don't worry, it's not going to hit us.
Exactly. Yeah. Sound bites are amazing.
Oh yeah. But he learned, they didn't want the whole, there's no way that this could hurt us because of the parabola arc of the thing and the blah, blah, blah. They didn't want that. They just wanted, give me something tasty. It's called a soundbite because it's tasty. It's immediately understandable, and you can munch on it and go, got it. Well, now if you ask, name a famous American astronomer, he's going to be the guy, period. 9 times out of 10.
Pretty much.
Yeah, well, exactly. I was trying to think, okay, if someone said to me, name a famous American archaeologist.
Crickets.
Yeah, literally crickets. Why is that? Why hasn't someone taken that spot that is sitting there? Because let me tell you, people like me, people like you, and people like your followers. I mean, how many followers do you have on TikTok? Over 100,000, almost 200,000?
137,000.
Yeah, I mean, and also millions of views and stuff. And
yeah,
there's an audience.
They could have been very
there.
nice people just letting things loop for 5 minutes, but
yeah, well, no.
I mean,
No, but my point is, someone's going to take that position. And
Yeah.
the reality is there's not just one position. There
Oh, no, no.
is someone will become the Neil deGrasse Tyson for the main broadcast channels. But there are just as many other channels that need their own version of whoever that expert is. And I got to ask you, have you been approached by anyone outside of TikTok about, hey, we'd love to get your take on something that's happening in the world of archaeology or anything like that yet?
Nope. And that is most likely because I'm not technically an expert. I don't have a PhD. I might get one someday. That's just not where my academic journey took me right away. Mostly because PhDs cost a lot of money. It's a
Yeah.
lot of money and a lot of time. And so because I don't have doctor or PhD tacked onto my name anywhere, I'm technically not an expert. I mean, I've run into issues on shows that I've worked on the past where I knew the answer to a question and I knew the information that we were looking for, you know, as part of the research or something like that. But I had to go find someone else to say the exact same thing that I knew because they had, you know, they had a PhD. So they were technically an expert. So that's probably one reason. I think the other reason is because you know, I maybe don't have millions of followers or anything like that. It's like I'm not an influencer. I'm really not. And I mean, the only thing I influence people to do is read and buy books and maybe go to a museum if they feel like it. That's it. I'm not here trying to influence people to do things the way that the, you know, traditional social media influencers do. And on top of that, like I'm not actually chasing anything. I'm not staking my entire livelihood on a social media platform and, you know, the content I put out and then the feedback I receive from that, because I already have a full-time job and this is meant to be something additional and for fun. And literally everything that's come from it has been a exciting and baffling bonus for all of it.
I hear what you're saying, but I see a little bit of something going on in your mind that I find pretty darn fascinating. There's I'm looking at your TikTok page right now, and the third one, if you look at the grid, the third one on the first row says, "Want to take an archaeological tour with me?"
Yeah.
Okay, so picture this. You get to know Annelise through your TikTok feed and you go, oh, I love her energy. I love her spirit. I love the way she explains stuff and contextualizes things. I love her just the way she does it, or what I would say the nonfiction aspects of Annelise Baer, which is who you are, what you do, and how you do it. The how you do it is always with a smile on your face and energy in your voice. You know, a twinkle in your eye, take a look at how cool this is. And there are a whole lot of people who want that in their life. And then you say, want to take an archaeological tour with me? And then you invite anybody to go to take a not a quiz, but a survey and say, where would you like to go? If I were to do this, where would you like to go? Now, from what I can tell, the first number one was Egypt, which makes a lot of sense for anybody who loves the pharaohs.
On brand.
Yeah, and all the stuff that's going on with the maybe they found, yes, they did find Cleopatra's tomb. I don't know, did they? Oh, all that stuff, which is very exciting. But then you say, and number two, let's see all the cool Neolithic stuff in Scotland. That's our current number one video, where she found out that the number two place people wanted to go is Scotland. And I have a theory about why Scotland ranks so high. It's due to a book series and a TV show about a kilt-clad hottie
back in time, and then there's some Scotland in the background. Oh yeah, absolutely. The Outlander effect, 100%.
But that's my point.
Great.
You just talked about how, well, you know, I don't have a PhD, blah, 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 blah. I don't see any Outlander fan having any problem with you not having a PhD. If you're going to take me on a trip to see the Standing Stones where I just might be able to walk through a gateway into another time, of course.
Let's go. Let's go. Like
You know,
this time is acting all kinds of weird. Let's pick another one.
well, but the whole point is that there's a truism in marketing: don't build it before they buy it. Meaning, don't go out there and sign a bunch of contracts about lodging and food and transfer services, transportation services before you know that there's a desire for it. Like we were talking before I hit the go live button about the fact that if you had 20 or 30 people who are like, yeah, here's my deposit, you could absolutely do a tour like that. But if it were only two, you couldn't. The whole point is you don't know. You're not a traditional, like you said, a traditional influencer. But you're using these platforms to not only build your brand, but potentially build an entire career. But we don't know that for sure yet. We're testing the waters. And
all of this is testing waters and dipping toes into places to see if I even want to be there. And yeah, the thing with the trips is it is brand new. And like I said, it is an exciting and a bit of a baffling bonus that's come out of this. I had some people reach out to me that actually coordinate these trips. And the first step was literally just, taking the temperature, gauging interest to see if this was something that anybody wanted to do. And apparently the response has been an overwhelming yes. So that's super cool. And that means I now apparently have to plan some trips for people. And basically the idea, I hope, is that it would basically be people getting to have the experience that some of my friends have had being in a museum with me and just watching me sort of turn into a crazed squirrel and get super excited about all the stuff. And they get the best tour they've ever had in their life, even though they didn't, or if they wanted it, or even if they didn't, they were getting it anyways. And that is I guess the real and genuine me experience, or, being near me in proximity to anything old and ancient that I'm interested in. That's what it's going to be.
Well, and there's another aphorism that's applied to marketing and sales, which is sales is nothing more than the transfer of enthusiasm. Well, that's what every good teacher does. And you are essentially a salesperson for archaeology and history and how cool this is and how it set up the tutors for how their line became, the kings and queens of England. And
the
blah,
tutors
blah,
is
blah.
far too recent. Far too modern.
Well, let's talk about that. So what is your sweet spot when it comes to your archaeological, sociological, well, not sociological so much, but anthropological interests?
And not even anthropology. Nah, get out of here.
Okay.
So, and I made a TikTok about that because people are always wondering what's the difference between anthropology and archaeology. But no, my sweet spot, my area of expertise, where I tend to hang out the most, is according to all the degrees that I have, the classical Mediterranean and the ancient Near East. So that's basically the middle to eastern half of the Mediterranean. So we've got Rome, Greece, Egypt. We've got everybody hanging out in what is now in the Levant, as it is called in academic textbooks. Mesopotamia gets to come to the party too. Everybody in there, and then it's friends and neighbors of all of those people and places. And like any archaeologist, we all have just a million sub interests of other things that we're interested in. And, that's why I can talk about, Neolithic standing stones in Scotland and England, because that's super cool. And I actually have had to do a bunch of research into that for past shows that I've worked on. So it's like, file that away. That's super cool. I had a great time learning about all that stuff. And also, weirdly, Mesoamerica. So, Aztec and Maya stuff. I've had to do a ton of deep dives onto various Aztec and Maya topics. There was even a 2-week period where I had to teach myself how to read Mayan glyphs and specifically the numbers to get the number system right so that I could find the glyph that we were looking for and needed to show in an image for a show. It melted my brain, but it
Yeah.
was very fun.
Well, that's really interesting. And you would think, or some may think that, well, that ancient history stuff, everyone's already dug up everything. But the
Oh
reality
no.
is
Oh
lately, I
no.
swear the last 10 years has seen just a explosion of cool stuff going, not only in Egypt, but Turkey. Uh,
Everywhere.
yeah, exactly. And I just read something, who knows, maybe you were the one who told me this via one of your TikToks, that DNA studies of ancient man have identified, or ancient hominids have identified sections of hotspots geographically where they believe the majority of these hunter gatherers were, and they're areas that have never been dug. So you know,
Yeah, and a lot of that, a lot of these, seemingly sudden and out of the blue discoveries, and again, it really is a fascinating and exciting time to be an archaeologist or doing anything remotely related to ancient people, ancient history, ancient cultures. And that's because we have technology. We have all of this technology at our disposal that can do all of these incredible things that wouldn't even have been dreamed of, 20 years
oh,
ago. The fact that we can, I mean, LIDAR has revolutionized the field of not just archaeology, but specifically Mesoamerican archaeology, because you can do a multiple lifetimes worth of surveying in the rainforest of, Guatemala and the Mayan highlands and lowlands. Multiple lifetimes of surveying can be done in a day with LIDAR. And it strips away all the foliage, all the trees that have taken over everything because it's a rainforest. And cities are coming out of the woodwork. Cities and highways, sock bays, I know that word.
yeah,
Like all of all of these things are literally coming out of the forest. And something like this would not have been possible otherwise. And I've heard Mesoamerican archaeologists say as much, like it would have been a full lifetime simply doing the surveying to try to find some of these places, because you have to like go on foot through the rainforest,
yeah,
and that takes a lot of time, and they can do it in a day if you get the funding, of course. And
right.
then things like strontium analysis. That's one of my favorite things to do on bones, and specifically teeth, because strontium is a mineral that gets deposited into your teeth, and specifically when you're young and when you're growing up. And so even if you go out into the world, you move away from your home wherever you were born, you will still retain essentially the markers from your home, your place of birth, in your teeth. And so we can find that in ancient people, and that's how we found that notable individuals like Utsi were born, somewhat far away from where he was found, or fairly nearby-ish. Or I think, who was the other one? The Amesbury archer, a famous famous person who was found near Stonehenge. He was from like Austria,
Yeah.
basically. So it's
Well,
like,
yeah.
wow.
And I'm not going to get this right because I'm not even anywhere near expert, but the idea that you can, through the strontium in people's teeth, tell not only where they were born, but where they went and how many times they went back and forth between two places because they drank water or ate food from
Mm-hmm.
different sources and stuff. It's mind blowing. It's fascinating stuff. And let me tell you, there's room, maybe not on the mainstream broadcast channels for experts like you. The mainstream are going to go to the handful of professional, pundits and crap like that in whatever field. But that doesn't matter. People like you who are getting out there and sharing who you are, what you do, and how you do it in a way that is enthusiastically sharing all those things, putting the light on yourself, stepping into your own personal spotlight. You are going to have that group of people who are like, oh, you're doing a Outlander tour of Scotland? I'm in. Or, oh, you're going to do the Cleopatra's Path tour in Egypt and maybe head on over to the Rome too. Oh, I'm in for that too. You know, I just see tremendous things for you. But the first thing is the will to do it. What is your goal with doing all this stuff?
My goal is to just make the past, whether that's, history, archaeology, just ancient people, is to make it accessible because it is endlessly fascinating. And at the end of the day, it is really just a study of us as people. And we've always been like this. Ancient people had the same wants, the same desires, the same concerns that we have today. The only thing that's really changed is maybe the surroundings, but our ancient ancestors really were just like us, and that's endlessly cool to me. And it helps us learn more about who we are as individuals and as a larger group of people. It helps us learn what things have been like in the past, where we've come from, how we got here, and potentially where we're going. And it's just really cool. And the unfortunate thing is that so much of this gets bogged down in bad storytelling and poor communication about who these people were and what these topics are. And so much of the beauty of it all gets lost. So I'm kind of just here to hopefully get people as excited about ancient things and ancient people as I am, because I love it. And I think other people love it too. And it's all available out there for free, basically. And there should really be no reason why people end up on a weird YouTube channel or a weird website that's peddling some kind of, ancient advanced civilization, alien crystals built the pyramids nonsense, when the truth behind it all is so much cooler and
Yep.
way more interesting and is totally worth learning about. Because even like you said, there's been so many new discoveries and leaps forward in our knowledge and understanding about ancient things, that we're learning more about ancient people and even people who built the pyramid, for example, every single year. And it's so cool.
Well, yeah, I'm going to quote back one of your recent or fairly recent TikToks where you're talking about that, for lack of a better word, the papyrus spreadsheet that was actually showing the number of blocks that were being transported by a 40-person crew. And
Yep,
it's
Diary
like,
of Marais.
well, and the fact that you even kind of did and so they had receipts, and these are the receipts for the fact that people
Right
did
there.
this, which is more amazing than some type of alien hovercraft transporting
Yeah.
these things. At
Yeah,
any
it's
rate,
like people did that. That's crazy. That's so
yeah,
cool.
it is. And people are doing crazy cool stuff today, just like Annelise Baer, who is using TikTok and other platforms to get her enthusiasm, her passion, her excitement, her curative ability, all of these things she's demonstrating via these channels. And I think it's only going to do good things for her and her career, and also secondary effects that mean something to me as the father of 3 daughters. Having a woman who is so passionately interested in sciences. People talk all the time about the problem with women not being in STEM fields. Well, guess what? You have more people like Annalise out there showing people just how exciting it is. There are untold thousands who are going to go, you know what? I see myself doing that. I don't see myself on a beach in Belize with the wind blowing my hair doing some mimetic dance on TikTok. I don't see myself doing that. But maybe I could go on a dig in Albania with Annalise. Wouldn't that be cool? Well,
Yeah.
anyway,
And
as you
that
can
will be
see,
possible in a couple of years.
yeah, exactly. As you can see, I'm a big fan of Annalise, and I hope you will become a big fan of hers as well. You can check her out on TikTok. She is at Annalise the Archaeologist on the Tickety Talk. But also, you've got that we kind of teased it earlier. You've got a survey going on about, hey, essentially, where should we go on vacation? If you were to go on a tour, an archaeological oriented tour with Annelise, where would you like to go? Where can people go to actually participate in that survey?
That survey is going to be up for 2 more days. So
Ooh.
I'm not sure when these episodes are coming out, but yeah, so the survey is up for 2 more days, and it was really just the very initial like temperature check to see if people were interested in these sorts of things. And people have been kind enough to respond. So I'll take it down on Wednesday, and then I will be moving into the trip planning stage for those exciting trips that people apparently want to take with me. So yay.
Well, and this will air after you have taken that down, but don't worry. If you follow Annelise on TikTok, you're going to see, I'm sure, a ton of content about you talking about potential itineraries, or here's a highlight thing we're going to look at. Here's a book you might want to read in advance of the trip so you can really understand the context of some of the stuff we're doing. And I'm just guessing, but my God, you're going to have a whole cottage industry dedicated to this stuff. And I, for one, am so thrilled to see someone like you doing that so full-throatedly and with such a kind, open, loving, sharing heart. So good on ya, Annelise Baer. Again, Annelise, Annelise, Baer, Baer. You can check her out at AnneliseBaer.com, and also Annelise, the archaeologist, on TikTok. Well, that's it for this week on the Nonfiction Brand podcast. As always, don't forget, it was brought to you by this guy, this clown, this book, Nonfiction Brand. Discover, craft, and communicate the completely true, completely you brand that you already are. You can get that over at the House of Bezos, Amazon.com, anytime you'd like. And also, you can hook up with Annelise Baer at the places I talked to about earlier. So I'm going to cut this out and edit because I realized I've already said that. But I will say this. That's it for this week on the Nonfiction Brand podcast. Thanks so much for listening. And also, thank you so much to my special guest, who will name herself. I'm DP Knudten, and she is
Annelise Baer.
And I'll be talking at you again next week. Bye-bye. Okay, so live stream audience, we are done with the live stream. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you follow Annelise on TikTok, because if you like anything having to do with Egypt or ancient civilizations that are actually real ancient civilizations, not somebody's psilocybin infused fever dream, you will love her content. It's really, really fun, especially if you appreciate someone who brings the emotion and energy of humanity and marries it together with the hard science of archaeology. That's all I can say. So that's it for this live stream. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.